Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. The Hogg Fast Eddie XL review. And information you were never told by anybody. We've been deceived and lied to about a lot of things on YouTube videos in regards to this site. And I'm here to clean up the mess. All right, so you guys know I'm brutally honest. By the way, if you click out of this video too soon, you're going to miss some very important information. So you best be sticking around, okay? First of all, I would like to say it is a beautifully well-made site. It looks like a piece of art, which is a good place for it on the wall. So that part is fine. It's very well made. It's made in the USA. Great. However, the Americans need to be very embarrassed with themselves. Give them all selves a slap in the head for the worst instructions on planet Earth. The Chinese could have done better. Sorry, but it's the truth. Okay, their English might not be that great on translation, but damn, at least they give you a proper layout. And a parts list, too. We weren't missing any parts, but we do have an extra part that we didn't know where the hell it went. But now we do, thanks to the website at Fast Eddie. We actually know where that part goes now. Congratulations. Thank you for that, Spot Hog. You friggin' pains in the butt. So the written instructions for sighting in, at least that's clear and concise, and that's good, right? And they talk about second, third axis setups, and okay, there's a little bit of info there. But they show this thing set up. Now, without seeing much of this, you're going to get a better visual up here, okay? So bring your attention over to the screen here, and let me see if I can blow this up a little bit more for you. Okay, so you will see that they have 3 holes free here. Technically, there's 3 free here. And this little bracket, that's one we didn't know about. We didn't know what the hell it was for because it's not on a parts list because there is no parts list anyway. So you don't even know if you got all the parts until you get it home and go, I think I'm missing a screw and I think there's something else might be missing out of here. Like, damn. Well, chances are you probably do have all the parts. They just don't tell you where they go. They don't show you where they go really either. I mean, other than if you look at the picture, you can kind of take your best guess and go, well, that looks like it could be correct. I mean, you know, reasonably, it kind of looks like it's correct. Okay. But this piece here, on the majority of bows out there, and I say the majority because I don't believe this is a hunting scope of any shape or form. I believe it's more of a scope made for precision target compound bows that would likely have the required amount of range between your arrow rest and where this would actually mount on the riser. It would be a much deeper area, we'll say. We'll give you some examples in a moment, okay? But you can't use this. You can't use this setup or you're never seeing 20 yards. Okay, in fact, you're not even going to be able to dial it to the 60 yards on the calibration tape because you're going to run out of tape before you barely even get started, okay? Because, well, it's not that you're going to run out of tape. You're just going to run out of, like, space between the hood and the arrow. And even if you take this thing off, which we're going to talk about, but anyway, there's going to be a lot of problems that you're going to run into. Problem number 1 is this is BS. That is not happening in any perfect world or imperfect world. That setup is a complete misconception or misleading setup because it can't work and it can't get you to your 20 yards. Well, it might get you to 20, but you're not dialing into that tape very far and you're going to have lots of tape left over and you're going to have arrows colliding into the bottom of the hood. All right? Because that's not right. Okay, let's actually give you some more instruction here. So, micro windage. There is no indicators to left and right for directions to turn this thing. There's plenty of room they could have stamped it in there. They refuse to do it. Why? Because they assume that you've got a genius level brain and that you could just memorize it after you figure it out a few times. So you're on your own on that one. Okay, so, and because this is a left-handed sight, a right-handed sight, whichever way you would turn this to go left or right is going to be complete opposite turning on the other side, which is why you need left, right, arrow, left, arrow right. I mean, come on, even a $10 Chinese scope has friggin' markers on the friggin' dials to go left and right. You know which way you turn. Left goes right, right goes left. It's not that hard, right? Micro adjust needs that, okay? We don't care about elevation. It's pretty simplified that any person can figure out that if you turn the wheel away from you, it goes down, which means elevation goes up, and if you turn it towards you, it goes up, elevation goes down. Okay, now, I have this set back again. I've been screwing around with this thing a lot because it's been giving me a lot of heartache, okay? It ain't so simple. So, I am back to the same starting point that me and the guy at the archery store started out with this, because we tried their way and that was not going to happen, okay? So we put this all the way at the bottom, which is fine, because if we go to the top and we turn it down to about, say, I don't know, somewhere around here, we're going to have about 20 yards, okay? Which is great because we still got lots of arrow clearance at that point. And you would think that, you know, there would be some sensitivity, but they do say it's a coarse system. So here's our arrow spacing. Okay, now this is pretty much an approximation of what 20 yards would look like. So you got to figure you got fletches. We're not all running the same size of fletches either. Some of you guys are running, you know, thicker ones, like wider ones, etc. You're going to have to really figure this one out. But anyhow, so when I get done and I get to about 60 yards, I'm probably about here. My arrow fletch will probably just miss. Just. Okay? So that's kind of interesting. But wait a minute. Doesn't this go to 100 yards, Kev? Yeah. You know what that looks like? Oh, wait. Got to take the arrow out. 100 yards is going to put you, somewhere around here. And, yep. You see what happens? You're not supposed to be shooting through the damn sight, boys and girls. You're supposed to be under the sight. But, yeah. So, yeah, but you could move this up, though, and get clearance. Yeah, but you're not getting 100 yards. You're not going to dial to 100 yards. You're not going to get it, because you're not going to get your 20 yards right either. I moved this up 2 stages, and it took even more of a turn from here. Okay, so I moved this up 2 stages, and I had to go all the way to here, much lower, to even get to 20 yards. Well, that didn't work out at all. So I thought, all right, well, let's drop this back down 1 screw, so we still had an open screw down below. And, well, I had to go to about here to get 20 yards. And then by the time I was done setting this thing up, and at 60 yards, I ended up pretty much about down here. I had just enough clearance that my fletches just cleared the bottom of the scoop. Now, that's also with the skinny sight ring on. The fat sight ring, nope, not going to work. Your fletch is going to collide right into the bottom of the ring when it fires. So, here's the scoop. The majority, and I do mean the majority of bows, regardless of your brand, are not going to get to 100 yards in the end. You might get to 60 yards on the top pin, so you'll have 68 on the bottom pin, which, by the way, the bottom pin is completely pointless. It blocks most of your view of your target, so just use the top pin, you're fine. Okay? Top pin is wonderful. Some of you may even get it to calibrate to 70 yards on the top pin, which is 78 yards on the bottom pin, at least with the tapes that I ended up with. I started with tape number 4, so after a lot of hellacious shooting of hundreds of arrows to get this thing, and losing a bunch of them, getting them back, except for 2, they died in the trees. Kaboom! Down comes the fist of Thor and snap them off the tree because they were dug in too far. That was a closer range that I missed, by the way. I had a couple pull shots, too. That sucked. But this thing is so sensitive. You damn well better be on that exact 20-yard mark on your setup. So we set it up in his store at 20 yards, or, well, where we were standing is supposed to be 20 yards. I have a feeling I was standing a foot or 2 closer, which throws off the calibration, by the way. But we did get it dead bang on bullseye. Okay, so it was like, great. We got it calibrated, left, right, up and down. Yeah! Lock it up. put it in the car, go home, throw the calibration tape on. But we had a problem at 60 yards. I was 1.5 feet low on impact. Well, that's probably due to the fact that our 20-yard mark was actually off by a foot or two, okay? And my 20-yard mark here, I had forgotten that it's actually 3 feet behind the stone, not at the stone. So that actually literally throws off everything, okay? Something I didn't know. Learn something new every day, okay? That's how picky this site is. It's precision for a reason, okay? So it makes you a little crazy. I need coffee soon. Anyways, so anyway, 52 pounds, sorry, of draw weight, wouldn't make 60 yard, okay? Not happening. It was like, well, the arrow got there, don't get me wrong. I had 2 targets stacked this way in case I missed and hit low. And I did, 1.5 feet low from my center of my big white plate. By the way, highly recommend a 8 to 10 inch white paper plate. Tape it onto your target. Put a bullseye sticker in the middle of that sucker so you got something that you might be able to see the center of. The idea is you got to get to that bullseye. You ain't going to hit the center of that plate because your windage is going to go to crap on you after about 35 yards. But you need to get to the center level, which once I cranked my limbs to 60 pounds, again, it's like I should have just left it at 60 to begin with, right? But once you get, you're going to need 60 pounds minimum to get 60 yards and hit your perfect point of impact, okay? Now, that's with 400 spine, 400 grain arrows, okay? If you have a lighter arrow, then that's fine. So 500 spine at about 378, 384. Yeah, you should be able to get your point of impact fine at 60 yards with 52 pounds. But with a 400 grainer, 400 spine, no way. You got to go to 60 pounds. It's a minimum. Found that out the hard way, obviously. And like I said, a lot of lost arrows, but we did find them all, other than 2 we had to snap out. But, so anyways, I get this thing all set up, and everything seemed to be okay. Then I decide, oh, I'm going to screw with 340 arrows. Well, POI was fine, but windage was out, so screw around with windage back and forth, and I can't seem to get the 340s to dial in with this thing because the bow wasn't calibrated with 340s. So, yeah, it has to be calibrated with the spine and weight you're going to use. If you switch spines and weights, you start over, okay? Next problem I ran into was this. This ring, you'll notice, is pretty fat, and it's pretty wide too, okay? The inside is also very small and has a big lip in there, which makes this smaller. When you look at the other ring you're supplied, this is a perfect diameter to the inside of your bucket, okay? Is what I'm going to call it, or a trash can, I don't care. The outside is pretty flush here too, which means you get an awful lot of wind elevation back, okay, when you go to this smaller ring, okay? But the problem is now you got a big hole here in this ring compared to this ring. This is a much bigger hole. That throws off everything you did when you change out the ring, something YouTubers have not told you, okay, that it does happen. And I know it happens, and I know it's a fact because it happened to me, okay? I changed the rings, and it threw everything to crap on me. You wouldn't think it would because when you're looking through things, you're trying to focus between the pin and your target. Well, this shouldn't make a difference, but it actually does, okay? But if you are off by such as much as a foot, this thing is going to get thrown out through your entire 60-yard calibration. It's going to affect it. Even though I range finded 30, 40, 50, 60, and I was bang on those, that doesn't matter. If your initial 20-yard calibration is out by even a foot, it throws off the entire range, which could have also contributed to 52 pounds of draw weight, also not being able to make 60 yards proper POI on my target that had the white paper plate, okay? It shot 1.5 feet low. So that adds up, okay, over a long range of being screwed from the beginning. So I started playing around with some sight tapes, and I went from sight tape 4, which is what I ended up with in the end, just to save a pile of this story. So I'm leaving some story parts out because they're really not that important. It was just conversations between me and the store, and you know, we were trying to figure things out. And so I opted out to put more limb pressure on and back to 60 pounds, and that did the trick for that part. But then we started getting to other issues, especially once we changed the rings. And so I started messing around with different sight tapes, and I got sight tape number 3 to seemingly work. Okay, this thing threw everything out with the new one. The other one, it's almost about a 10-yard outage, pretty much. Okay, give or take, difference between them. And I just got tired of looking at this big fat ugly ring. It's like, ugh. And the fact is, I lost extra range, but I still can't get 100 yards out of this thing in the end. Like, once you calibrate 20 to 60 yards and you get your sight tape number that you're going to need, now that could be any of these, right? I mean, you've got really short ones, you got little longer ones, you got some even longer ones, and then there's tape number 3, which is really freaking long, which is what I ended up with in the end, which was still out. I don't know where I'm going to end up with in the end, but I've also made some other changes to what we originally started with as well. And I also found a way to get my quiver on here with the speed knob. So originally we had set this bar up about 3 pinholes back. Okay, so we made this closer. I am now going by their diagram, and I'm going to put this bar out. Okay, now I'm still not going to be able to use that bottom locker, and I still can't put this in the center. It's not going to work. I guarantee you, it is never going to work. At least not on this bow. Pretty much, well, my Stinger 3G, it won't. My Bear Apprentice, definitely not. Not a chance in hell this thing will even work, period, on that bow. But anyway, so I found out that if you have a mounting bracket that has three holes like mine does, okay, then you can screw it in to the back and still use the speed knob. When we had my quiver originally mounted, no speed knob, we had to use the included grub screw only, and then we were able to have this in the middle position here. But I decided to try mounting it at the back, and I can get the screw in, which is fine, and the speed knob, you just have to loosen it a bit, and then you can just slide this to where you need it and lock it down. Now, every spot on this thing, let me just get this lined back up. Yep, perfect. Every little bar here that you see, that's this little bar, okay, that's a dimple, and that's where the speed knob goes into. And the knob has got like this little plastic titty thing on it, and so does the grub screw too. And then boom, locked up, and it's not moving, it's not going up and down. And you don't have to torque this down tight. You just tighten it up till it stops, and then just a little extra twist, and that is all you do. If you over torque it, you're gonna bugger something up, okay? So don't over torque anything. But I'm gonna try it with this all the way out. I'm gonna recalibrate. This time I'm gonna range find my 20-yard mark right from the get-go, make damn sure I'm on 20. I'm gonna sight this thing in until I get a friggin' bullseye, and then I'm gonna start moving back 30, 40, 50, 60 again, and seeing how things go, okay? And hopefully it goes much better, at least with this portion. But this setup is never going to work for you, okay? At least not on the majority of bows out there. And like I said, the vast majority of bows, no matter what tape you end up on, you have a high probability, like 98% chance, you are not going to see a 100-yard ability out of this sight, okay? It's not going to happen, okay? If I put an arrow in here, all right, I'm gonna do this for you. Now, the last time I had this thing doing its thing, I had 60 yards on green, okay? And 60 yards on green kind of looks about like this. This is 60 yards on green, which is 68 yards on the second pin down, which The second pin is useless. You can't see your target. Don't even bother using it. Okay, just use the top green. Okay, so that's what 60 yards looks like. Okay, really. All right. Now, if I move this thing some more, and I want, say, 70, so I'll take a rough guess here. There's 70. Okay, there's about 75. Even at 70, my arrow is going to collide with the bottom. What do you think is going to happen here? I can't even get to the 80 mark that I would have. And look at all the range I still have left here. Okay, like literally the amount of range that's left, lots. Now, if this system could somehow be completely reversed and still used to bring this height up higher, that might actually work, but there's no way to really do it. Okay, in fact, this is the highest point because the pins, there's 2 locking pins up top. This is your manual windage, okay, that you have to go in block steps with, okay, which is stupid, but whatever. You know, those locking pins have to be there, and so does the screw hole, right? So you kind of need it, and so you can't just flip this whole thing around because then your sight goes on from this side to this side, and that's not what we're doing. We need it here because it's a left-handed bow. So anyway, a lot of problems with this thing that nobody mentioned. I'm surprised that nobody mentioned how much their bow went out of whack when they took this off and put the other one on, because mine definitely went way out. So, among other things, like nobody talked about the fact there's no left or right arrows and letters to indicate left and right direction for the micro windage, which it should be there. Okay, that would be reasonable, okay, to have that. And you can't say, well, you just got to have some common sense. No, that's not what it's about. I mean, some people, yeah, I mean, they don't need that because they're just geniuses, apparently. But the majority of the population, I'm sorry, we need to have some instruction on our device. Because if you think you're that smart, let's see how you survive with a scope that has no markings. I have not found a scope yet that did not have markings. Even a $10 scope from China has a left and a right for their windage and elevation so that you know which way to turn the damn screws. This, I mean, we don't care about elevation. That's common sense for the knob that way. But for the windage, come on. I mean, seriously, you know, that micro windage, which way, you're going to have to figure it out and then remember it. You know, it's just because it's not marked. I mean, there's just too many things about this thing that are just wrong, okay? And for an American-made product, they should be embarrassed for themselves for all the screw-ups they made in their design, too. I mean, the other thing that would have been useful, that I guarantee would get us to 100 yards, if there was some way to have this design, like this bar here even, like the bar with the teeth, the gear teeth, if this bar was about, say, 3 inches longer to give us more mounting options, we would be able to get 100 yards. I mean, it would look god-awful ugly, but it would get us 100 yards on any bow we use, any bow. And it's not like that thing is in the way anyhow, because it's not. We're shooting from this side. We don't even see what's going on over here, okay? So if this was another 2 inches longer, okay, even an inch longer, maybe even an inch and a half at most, with more mounting holes to drop this lower initially, so this could be higher up already, okay, and then have all that travel capability, so we could be guaranteed we would get 100 yards, even on the longest tape, which is like tapes 1, 2, and 3, and a couple others, okay, then that would be fine. I wouldn't be sitting here getting that upset. I would just be mildly upset because of all the other things that are wrong with this thing. But it'd be one less thing for me to pick on, that's for sure. So my end viewpoint on this, it's not worth $350. I mean, it's a piece of wall art for sure. It's great. It's beautiful looking. It's mostly functional. But the vast majority of people are going to be pissed about this, especially after seeing this review, because I'm going to sit here and tell you the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. This is to be embarrassed about, really. I mean, I really expected more from the Americans, to be honest. But, you know, it happened, apparently. But it's way overpriced for what we're getting and for what we're not actually getting, too. I want to buy a 100-yard sight that I can dial into 100 yards by 1 yard at a time. Then I expect to have that, okay? And that's what I'm not getting. That's what you're not getting. That's what almost nobody is getting. Very few people, in fact, will get to take advantage and actually get that 100-yard capability. Very few, okay? So it's not that we need this sight. We've been doing great forever with these. But it is nice to be able to have yard by yard so that you know you got a precise kill shot. That is the one advantage that sight has over any other sight out there on the market, okay? Yard by yard advantage, okay? Be nice if it could drop down to 10 yards, though. It realistically should be 10 yards to 100 because it's been well known that hunters have taken animals down at 15 yards and even 10 yards, too. But there is a way to backtrack that, too, with another sticker and just mark the mark for 15 yards or whatever, right? You could do that easy enough. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, we're all technically getting ripped off, you know? We're getting ripped off for no knowledge of which way to turn the dial. We're getting ripped off for piss poor instructions to even assemble it. Oh, and by the way, you got to level the sight, too. That's another mandatory part of the setup. And yeah, you're going to have to level that sight in the little thing there. To your bow, so your bow has to be level. Then you got to level the sight, otherwise you're screwed too. By the way, all the rest of that setup would be for nothing otherwise. And well, anyway, I am putting this thing at right now. I will put this thing at a 3 out of 5, and I'm being very generous at this point. What I'm about to do next for setup, and damn well better straighten this thing out, okay? Otherwise, I will revisit this as a 1, okay? But right now, it's at a 3, but it's not worth 350 bucks. Now, that was Canadian. This is about 336 off their website in US dollars currently, but I paid 350 Canadian for it. And that's brand new. So, I don't even know what to value it at. To be realistic of what it should really sell for, I don't know, maybe 150 bucks. You know, 175 tops for all the frustration and BS you're going to have to go through and, you know, the hellation of it all. And you better have a rangefinder that works right. And you better be also using a big white plate with a target in the middle so that you actually have a reference point to actually go for, because your windage will fall apart after 30, 35 yards. It's going to start going on you. Don't do it on a windy day, because you're just defeating yourself. Wait until it's like a virtually windless day or very super mild at best. Okay? This way at least they won't get blown off too badly. But other than that, I probably missed a couple of things, but I think we've pretty much shed more than enough light on this that nobody else has come good for. And the company certainly sucks. Their videos are pointless because none of them have to do with this. So there's no help from the company unless you actually call them. And I live in Canada. I'll be damned if I'm going to pay a U.S. phone bill in order to call them to get some help as to why the hell this thing isn't working right on my bow, etc. And they still don't even tell you about the slider bar, what it even does in or out. There's no information on that anywhere. And no YouTuber has any information. I've checked a lot of, unless you find a YouTuber that does, I haven't. So I've been through a lot of XL videos and I've found nothing. And even the company does nothing that they've offered up for video help or even anything of a PDF or anything. There's nothing for this. It's very pathetic, very piss poor, very, very badly done. So, yeah, but I'm going to do my best to sight it in, calibrate it properly, because I'm running out of time and hunting season's coming up quick, so I got to get this thing set up to go. So in the meantime, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and got a lot of it. Hope you stayed for it all too, because you learned a lot, I'm sure. See ya.